Hey, how's it going? And welcome to my page here at Global Think. My name is Jay Black, and in this video, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself and why I started making content on geopolitics and macroeconomics. So it was a few years ago, and I started to see some recent developments that happened across the planet. This was some wars and some different diplomatic situations that happened. And from there, I started wanting to learn more about them. I watched Fox, CSNBC, the BBC, and a few other news outlets. But when I watched these news outlets, I realized that Fox would include information that the BBC wouldn't. And then I realized that CSNBC or CNN would include information that the other twos didn't. And from there, I started to ask, why are some of these media outlets reporting some information and not others? And that set me on an entire spiral, a spiral to figure out to whose interests are these networks working? And why is it that some are painting the full pictures and others are leaving out crucial information? And I began the process of learning the skills of research. I began cross-referencing different news outlets to try and figure out where was the interconnected aspects of these stories. What was the actual story that happened? What was the true situation? And then I started to do research into why media outlets started to paint certain narratives that would fit the interest of the people that ran those outlets and who were the people that actually benefited from these interests. And over the course of doing all of this, I started making content on TikTok just as a hobbyist, sitting here on my computer and on my phone, recording different developments geopolitically that I believed was interesting and different aspects of this latest development that was being left out in the mainstream media. And I started to garner a following, people that just like me cared about the different pieces of the story that were being left out. And I started to put together more and more pieces, really painting a more coherent image of some of the different situations and developments that happened across the planet. And as I did this, I garnered more and more of a following. To the people like you that absolutely love to know what is happening across the planet and to dissect the propaganda out there that is shifting the way that we think about things and the way that we interact with other nations and even other culture and sometimes our neighbors. And that is why I started this channel. I started this channel to figure out what was the true narrative behind the propaganda that we're being sold to from every angle, and what are the actual reasons and who does it benefit when they tell the certain story or picture that they paint for us to consume. And I wanted to be able to make content painting some of the real pictures as best as I can, despite the biases that I bring in my own perspective from the conditions I've lived in, to really understand what were the developments of nations and what is the historical development that leads to some of the decisions and strategies that are made from upper level leadership across the planet in different nations. And what is the true reality on the ground of things like the war in Ukraine or the war that we're witnessing in Yemen and Israel and Gaza. And when I started to ask these questions, when I started to really dive deep into some of these developments, I really got inspired. I really started to feel like this is so interesting to ask myself, why is it that someone like Putin is making the decisions they're doing? Or why is Benjamin Netanyahu committing a genocide? And why are they making these decisions? What is the strategy behind them? What is the thought process? And I decided that I wanted to make content on this full time. I wanted to talk about what it is that I saw in the world. And I wanted to cross-reference all of the different sources and sit here and do research to figure out why these things were happening. And I wanted to include in that picture, who does it benefit for the way that these things are happening and how does it benefit them? And from there, I started Global Think, which is now going to be my journey of trying to create content in the image that I believe it should be created to from my own perspective, really painting the narratives of different things that are going on in media from a complete picture and the analysis that I think is important to keep in mind when we're watching certain events as they develop in real time. And on this channel, you can expect to find topics on geopolitics and also macroeconomics and also just some historical developments that I think are important. Like, how do different nations change over time based on the mode of production of how that nation is, when that nation has developed through things like slavery or feudalism or even the developments of capitalism today. And you'll also find different political adbits of me talking about socialism or capitalism or communism, and what do these different economic structures look like in the grand scheme of humanity and the development of humanity. And other things that I think that may be important, like recent scientific or news as far as like technology and what the development or benefits of these things are. But primarily, what you can expect from me here is my honest opinion and as many sources as I possibly can cram into the description of why I come to the different thoughts that I do about recent events. And hopefully, you'll also be able to see interviews live with major economists or even political leaders for different nations to actually bring their opinions directly to you as to why certain things are happening and what their thought process is on this. So, if this is something that you're interested in, and if you would like to sit here with me and ride this journey out as I continue to develop and refine my skills of research and content creation, then feel free to hit that like button, subscribe to me down below. And if you want, you can even find my links in the description where you can find me on other platforms to stay here for the ride. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys another time, and I look forward to everyone being here.